It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
Laugh.
We had a little fun, because it's a very long day, you know.
And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is The Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
All right, let's go already.
And John Nash.
Pucker up, Buttercup.
With a focus on career, the consumer culture, and marketing from an LGBT point of view. We're all business, except when we're not.
Welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host, Tim Bennett.
Donna.
Find our broadcast every week on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Stitcher. And if you are, in fact, finding those, and you like it, we would ask you to subscribe, like, and rate the show. FocusGroupRadio.com would be the place to go to find all information out about the show, including all the platforms we're on, what's past shows are there, what we're up to, our bios, etc. Focus Group Radio is also our social media handle for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And we do have a number here. It's 914-362-8747 or 914-FOCUS-GR. You can call us, leave a comment, ask a question. If we use it on air, we'll send you a pair of our Focus Group Radio socks. There is a new design and a new batch. We unveiled those a couple weeks ago with our good friend Brian Roman from AdMark 360. They're purple and gray. And as we approach the new year, we're going to be kicking off ways for you to sign up and get those socks and be a part of the show as well. So welcome to the day after Black Friday.
Holiday time. Did you shop yesterday?
You
don't shop anyway. You're a
I
Grinch.
refuse to shop on Black Friday. I'll do Cyber Monday. I'll be clicking away on Cyber Monday.
Every day is Cyber Monday at the Nash house.
It's true. It's true.
You don't shop for the holidays anyway, really.
No, I do.
Did you get me anything?
No. But we're early in the process. We have 20 some days to go, right? 24, 25 days to go. Yeah. So I'll figure it out.
I ordered our wreaths from L.O. Bean.
I know. I was on the phone with you a while
that.
ago about that.
Yeah, I ordered those. So those should be coming soon.
All right.
Hopefully this week, I think. Or you should have them, beginning of December, I hope.
Yeah, and they're at least good for 2 or 3 weeks. Tim found these wreaths that L.O. Bean makes that are really beautiful, actually. They're big, too. And they're not crazy expensive.
Well, yeah, the price went up.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, the price did go up this year. But they come out of Portland, Oregon, or somewhere out of Oregon, somewhere. And the price did go up a little bit. And I was gonna downgrade or downsize.
A different size?
Yeah, they do a smaller one, but I didn't. I thought, people have an expectation. Would you have taken a smaller one?
I would not have known. I'd be fine with it. Yeah, I mean,
Bob would have known.
Well, he might have known. Yeah, but
why didn't we get the big one? I'd be hearing that all year. Ed would have known.
I would have known. Yeah.
Where they're shaking his head. Why didn't I get the big one this year? Well, listen, things are tough.
Times
a new president.
Times are tough. Those trees aren't kicking out the boughs the way they used to, right?
They do have one though this year that I was considering, a eucalyptus wreath. But I thought that was a little lesbian-ish.
And wouldn't that be for more indoor kind of, if you want that?
Where do you put yours?
Well, my mom hangs the one you send us on her outside door, and we put ours on the outside as well.
Yeah, my mom and dad.
If it was one year you sent us, we had it in the apartment because we have a non-working fireplace, but it's a mantle. And we would spray it with water in it, but it dries out super. These apartments in Manhattan are like saunas, basically. So the poor thing had no hope of lasting to Christmas. It did smell great, but it dried out really quick.
This one was sent up to your other house.
Oh, to our country house. Yeah, and that will be then on the door outside, and it's a perfect size for that because you could see it.
Don't put it on the front door because you never use the front door.
Well, that's the whole point. You can see it from the street. It's beautiful. You have your wreath out.
Are you going to see it?
Yeah, you see, our front.
Right. Yeah, but I just, a lot of people don't use the front doors. I don't know what they have them for. In Canada, if you don't have a front door, you take the steps away, your taxes are lower. You do that in upstate New York. You take your step. Well, you don't use the steps.
I was just on the porch the other day, but anyway.
For what?
Taking down the flag.
That's what I mean. You don't really use it.
Well, no, and but that doesn't mean you don't put a wreath on the front door. It faces the street.
Okay. I just, as a kid, I always wondered why, when you go to Canada, a lot of times,
Merry,
in New Brunswick,
merry
there's
combat.
no front steps.
Merry,
Huh?
merry combat zone on the day after Black Friday. Did you shop yet? Did you
I-
buy my gift yet? Yeah, I got you a pack of M&Ms. Done.
Well, did you eat turkey?
Yeah, of course we did. We had our traditional dinner at our friends Trace and Christine's in their new apartment, and we had a lot of fun. And we got to see their daughter, who's back from school for her break, and she was thrilled with her focus group radio socks.
Because that's her school colors.
Northwestern, and purple's the color. And it actually, I think the shade we did is the
Yeah,
color.
no, that's Northwest. Yeah, it's Northwestern. It's Williams. It's Capital. It's Kenyon. There's a bunch of schools with that purple and gray. My niece had decided at Thanksgiving to let us all know she's a vegetarian.
Oh, was that when the turkey was being
Well,
sliced up?
my mom was all concerned. Have sides. Just eat some sides.
What was that thing you described? It was something with Velveeta cheese.
Oh yeah, no, my mother made that. She asked me exactly what I wanted. She used to do these pearl onions, which we don't do anymore because
I used to
that was
I like the
hold
pearl
off from my
onions,
grandmother. But my mom and I
That
only
was an
ate them.
older. That dish is
But my ex-sister-in-law made this Ritz cracker, stick of butter,
Yeah, that's it. Ritz crackers. I
frozen
forgot
broccoli, and Velveeta cheese, and you put it in the pot and you cook it up. It's delicious.
I completely forgot that. That
I tried to make it at home.
first
I can't.
primary ingredient. But when I was a kid, by the way, and I don't know if you were like this too. We loved Ritz crackers.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop eating. It must have been the butter, right?
Peanut butter on them.
Well, the butter flavor of the Ritz crackers have a slight butter flavor, right? And then you put peanut butter on it, and
Or did you do the Velveeta on a Ritz, or did you do the spray cheese, the aerosol cheese?
spray cheese was not allowed in our home.
No.
Oh, we knew nothing of store-bought goods. You know that.
You know what?
My mother baked and baked every day. The Entenmann's boxes you found in the garbage is proof that she didn't. These aren't the droids you're looking for. That's the.
In the spirit of the holiday, I'll remain quiet.
Oh,
I don't think I had a baked
Oh,
good.
Tim, my children knew nothing of store-bought goods. And you're like, really?
Well,
I'll tell you this. The time you'll remember this because you were at this particular party. It was our senior year graduation time. I don't know what kid was having a party at someone's house. Their parents weren't around, but Stacy, Marianne, I picked up Marianne and Stacy in the back of this. My dad had this green Impala. It was like a boat.
I remember this.
That
Yeah.
car. And so we go to this house party on Jeremy Swamp, I think it was. It was a big white house.
Is this when you crashed?
And I round the car. Stacy goes, turn here, turn here, turn here. And we're all laughing. And I listened to her without even looking. I turn and go right up a boulder.
I know exactly where you were. You were going on River Road. and you
River
were going
Road.
to Mitchell's farm.
It was Mitchell's
to get
farm.
a keg in the cornfield.
That was it, exactly. And
Back in the day.
So Stacy hops out and she's like, I said, look at the front of the car. And she looks at the front of the car. She goes, it's all fine. She goes, don't worry. But we backed up. You hear this metal noise. And then one headlight's going off to the right and the other one's going. I'm like, oh, my God. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We have a fun party. I get home.
And your dad wasn't the most understanding guy.
That's being generous. He wasn't understanding at all. I mean, and what do I walk into? But at some ungodly, like 12:30 morning, they're sitting at the table in the kitchen having tea and coffee and an Entenmann's coffee cake.
Your mom didn't bake
Well,
that night?
my children know nothing of store-bought goods. Maybe only for her she got the Entenmann's. I walk in, and they're like, "What are you up to?" And I'm like, "Well, I got to tell you something."
You stoned or anything?
No, I was fine. And I walk outside. My dad takes one look at the car, and just. Well, let's just say his temper was not exactly something he moderated very well, and he went off the handle, and then it was my job you will now go to that school of yours, and you will ask if the guys in body shop can fix the car. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way.
Actually, a smart idea.
It's a very smart idea, but that's not the cars they worked on. They didn't work on, the honor student who ran into a boulder on the way to the kegger. They worked on their own cars. So my mother told me to forget it, and I think within a month that car was gone anyway. So no.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it was just a junker of a car.
Yeah, no. I wasn't allowed to drive any of the family cars. I had to have my own.
Oh, you had, and you
saved
took
up-
good. You took
saved
good
up
care of your
money.
cars.
I saved up money to buy my own little Vega. But
I remember the Vega. I love
orange
that Vega.
Yeah, burned a lot of oil.
Who knew? Who cared back then, right? Yeah. All right. So on the show today, besides our normal opening banter and week in history and Week in Science and Business Birthdays, we're going to be welcoming author Thomas Barta, who's the author of The 12 Powers of a Marketing Leader, How to Succeed by Building Customer and Company Value. The reason this book attracted you and I was more to the point that he was actually speaking to people in the marketing profession and how many of them don't actually climb up the corporate ladder the way others do, because it seems to be marketing is marketing, managing the company is managing the company. And I guess the skill set to be a good marketer does not mean you're necessarily a good corporate player. Is that the way?
Well, he says there's a leadership gap.
Yeah.
That there's not leadership, and I found that in my career that I think if you looked at most Fortune 500 companies, you'd find very few CEOs that came through the marketing
Very few.
channel.
Sales.
Well, sales, yeah.
But not marketing.
If everything goes great, it's sales. If everything goes bad, it's marketing.
Yep.
That's what
Always the case.
Marketing always gets blamed. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to talk to him about some of those issues. And he says it can be changed. That you can change the skill set. So
And I guess part of that is recognizing the problem first off.
Yeah.
Once you know the problem, you can start to change it. All right, so moving on, what caught your eye this Saturday after Black
What
Friday?
caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
mine's pretty basic this week. So
I went with basic too.
really because it's the start. It's the start of the holiday season. So last year there was a big kerfuffle. Is that the word I'd use?
That's exactly the word, a big to-do.
About Starbucks, and Starbucks did a plain red cup last year. Just a plain red cup with the green logo. And some very adult Christian audiences took that to mean, right, if you're watching on the YouTube, you'll see
So, by the way, that design, it's just a Starbucks cup that's red. I don't read anything into it.
Well, it was Christmas because it's red with the green logo. But the Christian, they said some very adult Christian audiences took the move, which Starbucks says was meant to set an inclusive tone as a personal affront. And they said it was a persecution against the religion, Christian religion, and a sign of unbearable tyranny of political correctness. In fact, Pastor Joshua Furstein criticized Starbucks and said Christmas was removed from the cups because they hate the baby Jesus.
There is so no winning in this game, right?
So Starbucks responded and said the red cup was purity of design. So the pastor shot back and said, that's not design, that's paint. It's a color, dude, is what he said. And he said it's the first time since 1997 that Christmas was banished. So Starbucks took heed, and they decided this year that they've got new versions out. Their agency 72 and Sunny in Santa Monica came up with some new designs, and they have snowflakes on them, reindeer, as well as evergreen trees, Christmas lights, Christmas tree ornaments, and other cups with some neutral patterns to bring Christmas back to Starbucks.
Are they going to get dinged for not having like the creche and the baby Jesus on there or something? I mean, it says holiday to me.
Well, that says holiday. So this was the compromise. One of them looks like a Christmas sweater, and you can see the Christmas lights and the reindeer and so forth, so on. But yeah, so that was so it was to placate all the criticism they had last year.
Okay.
I know you're not a coffee drinker, but
No, but it doesn't matter if I go in there and get a green tea latte or something. It's still put in the same cup, and I would never have noticed last year's cup as being anything other than festive. It's red it's like Santa.
well, I was wondering if people that are non-Christian will be upset by the cup if you go in there. Should they do blue cups? Should there be a Kwanzaa cup and a Jewish cup and a
I want a Kwanzaa cup,
Muslim
actually. And they don't celebrate Christmas, so they don't need a cup.
I'm just telling you, John.
Anyway.
I'm only reporting the news.
All right, mine, what caught my eye are two little pieces of retailing as well. You and I fell into this camp. First off, this was intriguing to me only because it's one of those things that a brand has to stay on top of, or they risk being, what's the word I'm looking for? Pushed aside or irrelevant of some sort. And this revolved around Newman's Own. So Paul Newman was a big philanthropist, and when he began Newman's Own, the idea was that all the food products that was under their label, all profits, 100% of the profits are donated to charity. So they recently his company recently did a marketing research, and they found out that the younger generation, millennials, and I forget what the age cutoff was, but it was probably about 35 and under. They had an awareness of who Paul Newman was as a movie star. They still knew that was still in the pipeline, but they had no idea what Newman Zone was all about.
Right.
And the takeaway was that the product packages did not emphasize the fundraising aspect of it. And so what they did was they redid the packaging. And in the picture that I pulled, on one side is, on the far right, if you're watching YouTube, is the original bottle, and you can barely see where it says 100% donated to charity. All the new products now have a cross in big letters, 100% profits to charity. So while the brand is losing its ability to connect with consumers because of the star power of Paul Newman, they now feel they have to do that through the philanthropic side and through profits being given to charities.
Is he alive still, Paul Newman?
No. Paul Newman passed away.
That's a dying brand.
Well, and that was an interesting problem, right? When a brand is tied so like a Martha Stewart thing, when it's tied to personality, when it's like Johnny Carson. There's going to be a point where Johnny Carson will be irrelevant to someone who's 22, and not because he wasn't a great entertainer or talk show host. They just never heard of him, and he's not on TV. And the second little one, this one was you might have read this too, but Kenneth Cole is closing all their outlet stores nationwide, which was about 63 or 70 stores globally. No. They're leaving their 2 full-price boutiques open, website sales, as well as sales through major department stores and retailers. But the idea here is that they're a privately owned company. And so in closing the retail, these, like Westbury or the Woodbury Commons kind of thing, in closing the outlet stores, they're eliminating that part of the brand, and they're basically saying with this tactic, now we're a premium brand. Premium brands don't belong in outlet centers, and so no one really knows if the experiment's going to work or not.
It won't.
You don't think so?
No. Restoration Hardware tried doing that, and now they're great guns going into every. Restoration Hardware did that.
I remember they changed everything, and they've
done huge showplace type stores. Take an old post office or take an old mansion, and they've done these showrooms. But now they're in every possible outlet you can find there. They've been opening outlet stores like crazy.
So you think the premium? Well, that was Kenneth Cole's idea. Was go premium, and
it'll work for a while.
I never sought out Kenneth Cole in outlet centers or discount stores.
They look good. The shoes are uncomfortable.
Enough said.
You know who his next door neighbor is?
No.
Billie Jean King.
Seriously?
They live next door to each other
Really?
up on the Upper West Side.
Kenneth Cole and Billie Jean King. Okay.
Well,
Billie Jean, here's a pair of shoes. They're going to make my feet bleed, Ken.
Better.
All right.
So we're ready for the weekend
History.
Those who fail to learn from history are forced to repeat it. Enjoy this lesson from Tim, and remember, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
So today, the day after Black Friday and the day before Cyber Monday, it's November 26th, it's National Cake Day. I think you're speaking of...
I love that. That picture of that crazy-ass Barbie doll, like, was she like...
When I went to Google and I typed in images and I typed in cake, and so 2 things popped up, which I thought were funny. All these things, you've probably seen them on Facebook or other social media, where people give the instructions on what to do.
Yeah.
So that one says, thanks for a great year, and they must have said, write it in purple. So that says, thanks for a great year in purple. And there's always that.
That was the decorating instructions, right?
So, instead of, they took it literally.
Thanks for a great year.
Thanks for a great year. It should have been that's what. But
sales department, yeah. Okay.
In purple. I'd like it in purple. And then there is a slew, page and page and page of these Barbie drunk cakes for kids turning 21. And there's one there. She's got one shoe on, one shoe off. Her panties are showing. Looks a little like Mommy Dearest there, I thought. So
slew of Barbie drunk cakes.
Yeah, you should see them all. I couldn't pick just one. I mean, there were so many of them.
Wow, what a brave new world we live in. You can call up cakes of Barbie face planning.
The other important thing, which we recommend everybody do, which I hope we all do today, is it's Small Business Saturday. It's a day to celebrate and support the small businesses and what they do for our communities. And as you know, many small businesses support the local schools, the Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, local sports teams, or whatever. So if you're going to do some holiday shopping, be sure to include some of the small businesses in your area. The initiative started in 2010, and the U.S. Senate recognized it in 2011. In 2014, they estimated, the Small Business Administration estimated that $14 billion were spent across the U.S. And last year in 2015, 95 million people supported small and independent businesses on Small Business Saturday, and they want to try to hit 100 million this year in 2016. So support your small businesses. In 1716, the very first lion was exhibited in America. It was on display in Boston. I don't know if this was a stage name, but Arthur Savage was the guy who displayed the lion, and he did it in his house. He was a sea captain. He brought the lion over and had it in his house, and you get to go in the house and look at the lion.
Poor thing.
Yeah, and so the Chief Justice of Massachusetts went and cut the hair off of cut the hair off of the lion, the mane, and then mixed up some sort of tonic and put it under the armpits of a sick grandchild. Thought maybe it would help him. Strength. 1716, though, John. The 1825,
If you told me it was yesterday, I'd still believe that was going on. So that's
sure.
my look of.
Well, I try to, you try to put this in perspective. 1825, the very first college social fraternity was formed at Union College in Schenectady, New York. It was Kappa Alpha. So there's a picture of the actual Kappa Alpha.
And like you usually do, a little suggestive photo there of our
some boys having a few beers at the frat house.
naked.
Oh, were they naked?
Why would you sit around doing that?
You weren't at a frat house, John. There was lots going on.
I was not in a frat house, and this behavior puzzles me. I'll just
I
say
had
it
a lot of
puzzles
fun.
me.
Sure.
Yeah.
1832, the first public streetcar service began in New York City. I guess I didn't realize it was a horse that dragged that thing up and down.
Yep.
I don't know if that was necessary. 1867, J.B. Sutherland patented the refrigerated rail car. It was known as a reefer. I don't know why. But it was...
well, that name didn't stick to the refrigerated rail car, but it did apply to other things,
It was launched in Detroit, Michigan, 1867.
I can see the connection, though. The reefer car. Now we move it forward in time, and the reefer, it's chill.
Reefer is chill.
Get you chill.
Well, there you go. 1917, the National Hockey League was formed in Montreal, Canada.
And here we go with another boys on ice in the buff.
I try to keep you to pay attention, John. I know if I just put up the symbol of the National Hockey League, it'd be, whatever. But so I try to engage you in the... Yeah, you like that?
I'm engaged, believe me. I'm not running to the rink.
like those
I'm not
sticks?
running to the rink, but the
See the sticks?
they're playing. The puck's moving.
In 1941, President Roosevelt signed a bill establishing, I was confused by this, the fourth Thursday in November as Thanksgiving, and then changed, it was initially the third Thursday, but it's the last Thursday of the month, right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, so I did a picture there of, I love the little cartoon. I hope this doesn't turn into a tradition. So Hillary Duff and her boyfriend there, his name is Jason Walsh. They got in a lot of trouble this year.
For those costumes.
Well, they went to a Halloween party, and she's dressed as a pilgrim, and he's dressed like an Indian, and apparently we're not allowed to do that anymore.
No, the Indian costumes are out.
Why?
Culturally insensitive. There's a list, but I remember there was a big kerfuffle about this 2 years ago.
You go as a cowboy?
2 years ago. Good question.
You go as a pirate?
Well, I don't know. If pirates seem to be, there could be all kind of pirates across the ethnic spectrum, right?
See, I don't think that was disrespectful, but they say the same thing now about Cinco de Mayo. You're not allowed to do the sombrero anymore. You're not allowed to do the shots. You're not allowed to do, MSNBC got in trouble because they all put sombrero. Today's Show got in trouble this year because they put sombreros on at Cinco de Mayo. I think we've gone a little too far, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't see the harm. I mean, it's a holiday.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, she got.
Well, I know on
blasted
social media.
Twitter,
Yeah.
So poor thing. And then 1983, a Brinksmat Limited vault at London's Heathrow was robbed. So these two goons decided they were going to break into this vault and thought they'd get about $40,000. When they got in there, they found $40 million worth of gold bars.
Whoa.
And not much of it's ever been recovered.
No way, really?
So they got away. They found out who they were. It was jokingly. One of the criminals who got caught, they named his dog Brinks and Matt.
So they were never caught?
They were eventually identified. You could see them there on the...
Identified, but...
I can't read the name on the...
But were they caught?
They were caught. They knew who they were.
It says
they were sentenced to
Michael
25
McAvoy
years.
and Brian
They
Robinson.
never recovered the stash.
You know, I got to tell you, if you are going to commit a crime like that, bullion, talk about something hard to move, right? It's bullion. In fact, if you want paydirt, you break into a vault where there's 20s and 5s. And $3 bills.
$3 bills. Get some twos. The last one, in 1992, the British government announced that Queen Elizabeth had volunteered to start paying taxes on her personal income. She also took her children off the public dole. And
Love that with the cigarette in the glass.
one I loved is, so Prince Harry there, who's pictured there with Queen Elizabeth, at holiday time, since it is holiday time, the royal family exchanges gag gifts, and only the children get real gifts. So in 2014, there was a big deal made. Prince Harry, who they said the Queen loved it. She thought it was hilarious. He bought her a bathing cap that said, "Ain't life a bitch?" And they said it was the hit of Christmas there at Sandringham. But can you imagine? So your grandmother's the Queen. You get her a little bathing cap, "Ain't life a bitch?" They said she was great sense of humor. Oh, loved it. Everybody loved it. So that was the where we with science.
Science time.
Don't be blinded with science. Here's what you need to know from the week in science, according to John. It's poetry in motion.
All right, one of my favorite things to look at, art-wise and archaeological-wise, is the Egyptian period. And
I thought you were going to say paulandmass.tumblr.com.
well, that's a morning routine. That's different than appreciating a culture or something. So on this day, November 26, in 1922, English archaeologist Howard Carter opened Tutankhamun's virtually intact tomb in the Valley of the Kings for the first time. So that's Howard. If you're watching, it's a black and white picture of Howard Carter on the left, and on the right is a photograph of what the tomb looked like when they first began going in and opening it. Carter rose to fame when this happened, and at the actual excavation and exploring the burial site, he cataloged roughly 3,000 or 5,000 artifacts, including the mummy of King Tut that was perfectly encased in its sarcophagus. Interestingly, they had to chop the mummy out of the sarcophagus to get the whole thing, and that caused a lot of damage to the actual mummy.
Why do they have to chop it out?
The resin. They used resins to embalm the dead, and it's like hard as rock. And at 3,000 years old, it's certainly hard as rock. Carter died in 1939, and a lot of people believe he passed away because of a curse that had been put on the tomb, because one of the backers of the exhibition, or the excavation, was Lord Carnarvon of London, who passed away when the tomb was literally being opened. And Lord Carnarvon's castle actually is the backdrop or the house for Downton Abbey. So if you ever watch Downton Abbey, it's Carnarvon Castle. But Howard Carter claimed that he knew about the curse, but didn't believe it one stitch. He died of cancer, as I said, in 1930.
Like an Indiana Jones plot.
Yeah. And then, of course, for us, and John just put this last picture up. This is a picture from the Metropolitan Museum of Art when the Tut's treasures first came to the U.S. in, I want to say it was like the late 70s.
It was
or late
Luxor.
80s. It could be the Luxor Hotel. You're right.
Vegas, baby.
You never know. And I remember my parents taking us to see King Tut's treasures. And, the thing about looking at any of this stuff that's been on display from his tomb, it's in such perfect condition. And the craftsmanship and the artisanship is just phenomenal. And that was the death mask for King Tut. Okay. In November 28th of 1948, Polaroid released for sale at a Boston department store the first land camera, Polaroid instant, camera. It was called the Model 95, and it used, or 40 series Model 95 roll film, went on sale for $89.75. So in 1948, $89.75 must be the equivalent of
$800.
You think that much?
A lot of money.
Well, it had to be over 500.
Yeah.
That model that we had up there sold through 1953 and used to produce a sepia-colored instant photo, the kind you'd wave and pull the thing off. And then, of course, he achieved success, Edwin Land, who was part of the Polaroid company, by creating Polaroid lenses, most notably for skiers. You make sense, right? Because of the snow. And last but not least, because I am obsessed with paying attention to the Chinese space program as they climb their way.
Where are they going?
Well, in 2013, China launched a mission to the moon.
Did they get to the moon?
Yes, they had. Well,
Supposedly.
robotically.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so they sent the Chang'e 3 lunar probe, and it was carrying the Jade Rabbit rover. Okay, so the Chang'e 3 was lifted into orbit by the Long March 3B rocket. You can't make these names up, right? From the Xichang Satellite Launch Center in China's southwestern Sichuan province. And that event was broadcast live on TV. The robot rover, called Jade Rabbit, did in fact successfully roll around on the moon for a bit before a little software glitch had it kind of just die. Just died on the moon. But they made it there. They didn't land a man there, but, they had the technology to get a rocket in orbit, get it to the moon, get something on the moon, the whole bit.
I marvel at the Asian, what's the word?
This was a highlight of the prowess of their technical capability.
Yeah, but they love to name things.
Jade Rabbit.
Right. It's, like the Magical Pony Fun Box. I mean, it's... you've got plenty...
Pony Fun... If they named the rover the Magical Pony Fun Box, it would be...
There was a camper I saw in Japan. It was the Magical Pony Fun Box. And I thought, I don't know, there's plenty of people around there that are bilingual that maybe could say, I don't know if that's such a good use of the terms. But the Jade Bunny.
The Jade Rabbit.
So the green bunny was going to...
The Jade Rabbit rover. Yeah, he was going to hop around the moon.
Looking for the flag, American
Tim,
flag.
what do you think they discovered up there?
Dirt.
Dirt's dirt. Whether it's here on Earth
Moon's been done, China.
Moon's
Go
been
somewhere
done.
else.
Well, they did actually make there was something I read in Wikipedia. They did make one discovery about some of the minerals on the moon, but again, we were there.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Business birthdays.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
We are the only one in the universe. Today, 68 years old, on November 26, is William Weldon. He's the former chairman of Johnson & Johnson. He's the 8th chairman in the history of the company.
Only 8?
More than 100 years. He spent his entire life working at Johnson & Johnson. He joined the company in 1971. He became the CEO in 2002. He engineered some of the largest acquisitions in the company's history, including the purchase of Alza and Pfizer's consumer health products. In 2009, the poor thing, I hope he was able to put food on the table. His compensation was over $22 million.
$22 million.
Yeah, for a year. In 2011, the New York Times named him on the list of one of the worst CEOs in 2011 for the increased number of Johnson & Johnson product recalls under his leadership. Additionally, in 2013, his lack of leadership or corporate accountability was a course at the Harvard Business School, probably taught along with our course at the Harvard Business School, John, about LGBT marketing.
Successful marketing.
He retired in 2012. His retirement payout, the poor thing again, I hope he's okay being retired.
His golden parachute?
His $143.5 million retirement pay. Poor thing. Happy birthday, William.
There you go.
So it's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got author Thomas Barta joining us to talk about marketing and learn a few things about the 12.
If you're a marketing professional.
If you're a marketing professional, learning a few things about leadership and its role within marketing. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by the award-winning Volkswagen Golf family. Let's make some money.
He's the business manager, let him manage.
This is the Focus Group.
Champagne! Champagne for everyone!
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. Find our broadcast every weekend on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or Google Play. So there's an audio component, or you can watch the show as a TV show, which we encourage you to do because we have some fun and cool graphics. Okay, as promised, joining us is author Thomas Barta. He's the co-author of a book called The 12 Powers of a Marketing Leader, How to Succeed by Building Customer and Company Value. Thomas speaks, writes, and consults to customer leaders on raising and achieving their organizational growth aspirations. He's a former McKinsey partner, has consulted and marketed for over 20 years in 14 industries and 45 countries. I don't know how he does this next one. Each year, he gives more than 40 keynote speeches and workshops for companies, industry associations, and universities. So he's joining us now. Hey, Thomas, thanks for making the time for us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I believe you're in Germany, correct?
I'm actually in London, and I'm just coming off a talk with marketers at London Business School about how to succeed as a CMO.
Which is actually what your book, The 12 Powers of a Marketing Leader, centers on, correct?
That's correct, exactly.
Hi, Thomas. This is Tim Bennett, the other half of the focus group here. Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
I've worked in a couple of corporate marketing roles, and so John and I were both interested in the book. John from the agency side, me from the corporate side, and the one throwaway comment I guess I would say, and I'm wondering what your reaction would be, is whenever things seem to always be going well, it's always because it's a great sales team. And when things don't go well, it's usually blamed on marketing. And I sense in your book that you kind of had that thread because you say it revolves around leadership. Could you expand on that a little more? Am I off base on that, or?
I think you're spot on. I mean, nobody wants to join, when there's blame, but everybody wants to join when there's success. And of course, as a marketer, you do get the blame. But I think the overall issue we're facing in marketing is that marketing is really important. But as you say, marketers are sometimes not important. And that's not because marketing isn't important, but it's because marketers, I think, could do a little bit of a better job to positioning themselves internally and actually, mobilize more people in the company.
Now, Thomas, one thing Tim did not mention was that he used to be the director of marketing and advertising for Subaru of America here in the U.S. and always dealt with this issue of what you just said. If things are going great, must be doing something great in marketing. And when things are going bad, it was all marketing's fault. So when you're a professional and you enter the field and you're going into marketing, you're usually driven by a passion. And I think what I saw in your book is that there seems to be a disconnect between a marketer's passion to connect with consumers and sell product or services versus the internal skill set necessary to navigate a corporation. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So, if you think about it, marketing is a really difficult role, right? No matter what you do. Well, because you have a number of gaps that other people or other leaders don't have. The first one is you have a trust gap, right? Think about your job as a marketer and how much of what you're doing is about the future revenue, future customer streams, future products. Now, if someone comes to you and says, I know the future, what are you going to say? I'd say if you stand next to someone from finance, you as a marketer will always look a little bit more shaky, right? All your arguments are, harder to prove. And you have a second gap. Just imagine the best possible customer experience that you've ever seen. People love the brand, people love everything you're doing. How many people in the company will have to join in to make that happen? Many. And how many of those are reporting into marketing? Are very few, right? So you have a huge power gap as a marketer. And then if you add the skills challenge that many marketers are currently facing, and with all the new things that come around the corner every single day, you're having a trust gap, you have a power gap, and you have a skills gap. That's a really difficult job to juggle. So I think as a marketer, you need to first of all understand that you are up against these three gaps and that bridging them is part of your job.
Is that universal, Thomas? Because I know you've done a lot of work globally. And are the challenges that you find where, we'll say in Western societies that probably spend more on advertising and marketing, are they the same or are the challenges different? For instance, if you're a corporation based in Europe versus the United States?
Yeah. So here is the interesting surprise. Actually, it surprised all of us. I was just speaking with marketers in Singapore, actually, a couple of days ago. And they asked the same question, are we different? And what's fascinating is that the actual gaps are the same. But it is true that in some organizations and in some countries, for example, take Asia or take B2B organizations, where marketing isn't as established, doesn't have such a long history, the gaps are just a little bit wider. The trust gap is wider, the power gap is wider because the scope of marketing is smaller. So the gaps are similar, but the size of the gap is different. So yeah, if you are in the US and work in consumer goods, your life is just that little bit easier. But then you have another problem, because then everybody seems to know marketing. So you're up against a lot of experts.
Everyone's a marketing expert.
Everyone's a marketer.
There you are.
And everyone's
Absolutely.
an art director, too. Everyone's an art director. You could sit in a meeting. I can change that. Thomas, you alluded to something a moment ago when you were answering a question about marketers and the challenges they face. The technology side of this fascinates me, because many years ago, when the internet first started to get bigger and bigger, or playing a bigger role in marketing, suddenly we were presented with the notion that we had metrics and data. We could actually look at marketing as if it were a spreadsheet that a CFO or a financial guy looks at. Have those tools made a marketer's role inside a company more difficult? And are they like a double-edged sword? Because you know that they're only... Numbers are numbers. It's how you use them, right? But now we're supposed to be able to pinpoint consumer behavior. So was that supposed to lessen the trust gap that you talk about, and did it end up creating more of a trust gap?
So right now, you're right, it's a double-edged sword. And what's indeed happening is that some marketers get really busy trying to understand all that stuff, and therefore perhaps not paying enough attention to what's actually really going on in the company, and the trust gap widens. Now, on the other hand, if you think about it, right, in God we trust, everybody else has to bring data. And it's a fantastic opportunity for us marketers to connect back with the C-suite. And it's very simple, right? I mean, if you are a CEO, just the ordinary CEO next door, right? You worry a lot about revenue, you worry a lot about cost, and you worry a lot about, say, the organization. It's a great opportunity for us as marketers to show the revenue side of our work. In fact, we are all about revenue. Now, here's the thing, coming back to your challenge or your question on the technology side. Now, there's a lot of data around, and the volume of data isn't helping us a lot. What's helping us is making sense out of the data and translating it to people who are not in marketing. And my advice to marketers is, just team up with your finance guys and see how you can create that bridge. I mean, let other people join you and do the work together. So I think if marketers are taking the data, not the volume of it, but actually the quality data, and just making very basic and very simple and very logical conclusions about marketing and revenue, I think it can be extremely powerful for marketers.
I have a hypothesis, and I don't know, maybe you'll tell me whether it's just my imagination, but are there... I know very few, if any, CMOs or heads of marketing that have risen to the CEO or the COO level. Is there a reason for that, or is that my imagination, or is that in fact true?
So let's look at the numbers first. And when it comes to numbers, you're absolutely right. There was actually a statistic of a large search firm in the US. If you take all company boards, executive and non-executive boards, under 1% of people there have a marketing background, like a true marketing background. That's very few. Now, think about this. Number one is, yes, indeed, there are some marketers who actually love a number two job. They're very happy to not be the number one in an organization, because maybe that's just not what they care about. And I think that's okay. But there are a number of marketers who actually could lead organizations, but they're just not getting the opportunity at first, and they're not aspiring it currently in the right way. So I work currently with a handful of chief marketing officers every year, together with the Marketing Academy, McKinsey. We're preparing people for the CEO role. And what's fascinating is, once the marketers learn some of these basic things that you do need as a CEO that are not marketing, some finance things, some organizational things, in fact, they will make fantastic CEOs. Because if you think about it as a shareholder, right? If you had two equally qualified people, who would you give your company to run? Someone from finance, who is very good at, of course, understanding the finance picture, or someone from marketing who's chasing revenue. Yeah, and I'd say if I had the choice and they were equally qualified, I'd go for the revenue guy. So the challenge for us as marketers to step up to CEO is simply to bridge a few technical gaps, and of course to say we want to lead, and we do need more marketers to say we want to lead, because that will make companies better.
Thomas, this is a question that's sort of a little out of left field, so I apologize in advance, and I don't know if there's a good or a right answer, but Tim and I in our business careers have encountered an interesting phenomena, and our claim to fame is our work as marketers in the LGBT community, matching corporate America to the LGBT consumer here in the U.S. One thing that we find intriguing, and it's a question that we often look at, is some of the best corporations have incredibly strong ERGs, employee resource groups, not just for the LGBT members of their employees, but for other areas as well. But there seems to be a lack of a commitment by certain companies to connect that internal strength, an ERG group, for example, with the LGBT moniker, and connect that to consumer messaging to say this is one of our values. It might fall out of the purview of the 12 powers, but it's something I'm intrigued by. Have you ever encountered that kind of thing where a company's core values are not always reflected in the marketing they do? Does that make sense?
I mean, it does make sense. And you know when this happens? I think it happens when the people who are doing the marketing aren't connected with the core of the company, right? Because you're right. I mean, companies that are very successful over time have also been authentic at what they're doing, right? That's when you get the most power of your value proposition, of your products. And I think if we are managing, or if you are able to connect marketers strongly with the C-suite, right? That's when also we have an opportunity to bring what the company stands for out into the market. If you think about this, the power of a marketer, if you think about two circles, right, is described like this. First circle is, I'd say, the customer circle, right? So there's a circle where you put the customer needs in. That's what the market wants. But there is a second circle, and that circle is the company needs. That's what the company needs to have. It's the company values. It's everything that's important for the company, including, by the way, the CEO agenda, which is a big part of that. Now, if you're able as a marketer to connect those dots, right, and that's when you have a proper overlap between customer and company needs, that's actually when you have a lot of power as a marketer. And I believe this is the moment then when you actually create the connections you talk about, right, between the company and the external world. And that may be true for GLBT customers, it may be true for many other customer groups, but that's what marketers ought to do.
You describe that in the book well. You call it the value creation zone. Is that correct? Right. So that was where you take the company's needs and the consumer needs, and then where they meet in the middle is kind of the sweet spot.
And that's a Venn diagram.
Is that a Venn diagram?
It's a Venn diagram, yeah. With the two circles.
One more question before we let you go. Was there something that surprised you in writing the book? You've done an awful lot of work with marketers, as we had said, globally. And was there something, though, that surprised you when you wrote the book?
Yes, I think the one surprise for me, plus some of the psychoanalysts I had on the expert side to help shape the research, was that the actual personality of an individual, so how you're wired, is not really important when it comes to explaining your success. Personality, so introversion, extroversion, we used a fairly large, very known leadership, personality model in this, the so-called Big Five, reasonably similar to Myers-Briggs. That's something that people may know even better. And they came out as not really a driver for success. And that is quite unique. If you think about a lot of the leadership talk, I'd say, that is about half born, half made, there's always this debate. Well, we can prove that in marketing, most of those skills are acquired. Now, that was a big surprise for the psychoanalysts and the psychologists we had on the team. But when you think about the gaps we started the discussion with, it starts to make sense because it's a quite unique role. So the good news that comes out from that actually big surprise is that marketers can learn to be successful. And if they choose to and pick up some of those leadership skills, their role in organizations can actually be exalted. And that's what we need.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us here on the Focus Group. It's Thomas Barta. It's the 12 Powers of a Marketing Leader, and be sure to pick it up where all fine books are sold. Is that how you say it, John?
I always say where all fine media is consumed.
All fine media is consumed. But for someone who's a marketer or someone starting out in business in a marketing career, it's a great primer. We get an awful lot of pitches for books, and we pick very few, and yours was one of ours this year. So we appreciate you spending time with us, and it's a good book. So thanks for joining us today on the Focus Group.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Thomas.
It's Tim Bennett and John Nash with the Focus Group. When we come back, we're going to do a little quick shop
talk.
Stay with us.
Brought to you by the redesigned Volkswagen Passat, where family happens. Visit VW.com to learn more. You're listening to the Focus Group
I said to my girlfriend just the other day, monsters are interesting, I said.
with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
And I'll bet you meet a lot of interesting people, too.
Well, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. Find us on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or Google Play, and on the Reverie app, which is available on Apple's iOS.
The big screen. I watched it
Did
this
you do
weekend.
it?
Yeah.
Did you like that? Did we look good?
Yeah.
Quality of the video is good.
Fast forward, you can do a lot of things.
Yeah, it's like it's a TV show. Tim, we finally have what we've always wanted. We have a TV show. It's not a variety show. You and I are a variety show. We're getting there. All right, we're going to wrap up the show with a quick shop talk that I thought was great. Tim sent it over, and it's perfectly apropos for Small Business Saturday, right?
Yep.
And the title of the article that Tim found was called, "Does Your Small Business Really Need a Marketing Plan?" So, Tim, take it away.
Well, essentially, they say yes. And some of it sounds pretty basic, but it says that the importance of having a marketing plan, even for a small business, even if you're a small mom and pop shop, is it helps provide a guide for you. And some of it, I think, for a lot of people that are in marketing sound obvious, but some of it is a good refresher. For instance, knowing what your point of differentiation is or where your place is in the marketplace. So say you're a florist in a small town. Do you have better service? Are your hours better? You know, why are you different, or why should somebody support you versus the other?
And that whole
flower
thing
shop?
you just said, what is the point of differentiation? Is it customer service? It could be price. It could be as simple as that you're the cheapest guy in town, but that's what you would
It
sell.
could be price. It could be you have the freshest flowers. It could be you have the biggest selection. Whatever it is, find your point of differentiation, and then use that to help guide you.
And they the author of this piece kind of lumped that under situation analysis.
Yep.
Which was, to be more academic, this is basically a snapshot of your business. Who are you, and what is your unique selling proposition, which Tim just went through. Now, this is something that Tim and I talk about a lot with people who ask our personal advice about marketing and advertising. And in fact, I actually put this as the number one thing that I talk about with someone who's seeking my input. Who's your audience? Who's buying your good? Who's buying the product?
Right.
And you know, I think you need to spend a lot of time on this, more than I think people suspect. There's the idea of who you think your customer is, who you want your customer to be, and then the reality of who your customer actually is.
Well, and you have to be honest with yourself too. I mean, I saw this numerous times at Subaru where we would have a product that we thought it was something other than what it was.
Yeah.
And people aren't stupid, and the consumer is not stupid. So no matter what you do, if you tell somebody, I used to always use this analogy, you take the small community college down the street and call it Harvard University and raise a tuition for $60,000, and all of a sudden people are going to flock there. That doesn't happen.
Not going to happen.
And so you need to know who your market is and who you're selling to and why.
You know what I jotted down here? If I said the two words Honda Element, would you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
All right. So the Honda Element was designed,
Electric car, right? Oh, no. I know what you mean.
The Element was designed to be a car for
Millennials.
the millennials, the youth market. Guess who bought it?
Yep.
People that were 40 and older. So that was that thing about the customer you want, the customer you think you have, and who the customer really is.
Well, we had done a quick story. We had done the Subaru Baja came back.
Baja!
So they took the Outback and they essentially cut the back off.
It's a pickup truck with
I was with everybody as they've had a few beers and we're jumping the campfire in Seattle and decided we're going to make a Baja again. So they
walk in the coals.
Who's going to buy it? Because no one bought it the first time, but maybe the second time they'll buy it. So the car gets made and then it goes through research. And I still remember the research person, clear as day. I'm standing there and the research person gets up and says, we found the sweet spot for the Baja.
Who was the sweet spot?
A lesbian rancher. And I said,
lesbian rancher?
We'll sell 2 of those a month. I mean, how many cars can you possibly sell? And then they had ridiculous numbers, ridiculous expectations of what this car was going to do. And they were very excited. We've really identified lesbian ranchers.
So that's where the lesbian rancher came from, because you've brought the lesbian rancher up a couple times. That lesbian rancher, plural or singular, whatever they're doing, right?
Well, and they were spot on. There's 2 lesbians in my neighborhood that have one in school bus yellow.
Baja. Whenever I see a Baja, it's usually the yellow.
Yeah, it's school bus yellow.
School bus yellow.
Which was another great idea.
Yeah, and we're not even going to go down to staff car red. But the other point they make in the article about a small business developing for themselves a marketing plan, which is a smart idea, and it doesn't have to be that complex. What's your stated goal? Marketing goals. And marketing goals, it should be noted, are often different than company goals or business goals. And it could be something as simple as, if the marketing plan is to increase awareness of your business, that's not the same as raising the amount of money the store is bringing in if it's a small shop.
Right.
They're very different. They should connect somewhere, but they don't have to be in the same zone at the same time.
Well, the goal is, I want to make $1 million.
Yeah.
How are you going to do it? So what's your goal and what's the strategy to get there?
Yeah, and for Tim and I now in our new format on our multiple platforms, one of our goals is get more eyeballs, but that doesn't always mean that's a marketing goal, right? But that might be different than a sales goal or a revenue goal.
The strategy, right, on how to get that. And then the other thing is to have a set budget.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. In other words, you have to budget money. A lot of times, we used to laugh about this in marketing without a home. Even within the marketing area, when it came time to do out of home or maybe some sponsorship things, there was never any money left because it was always thought of last. But if you have a great website or a great storefront and you don't tell anybody about it, or nobody knows you exist because you haven't spent you spent all your money on everything else other than marketing, it doesn't matter. So you need to make sure you have some sort of budget set aside for marketing, and then measure your results. I mean, that's what's at the end of the day what it comes down to. Did your plan work or not?
A small business owner or a shop owner is going to be able to measure their success quite easily, right? Especially if they've been in business for a few years. They have a month-over-month sales numbers they could look at and revenue numbers, and they could probably pinpoint when a marketing effort did succeed in driving more traffic into the store. It's a puzzle. I mean, we have friends who own small businesses, and they're always trying to figure out what that thing is, like what makes someone come in the door to buy a product. And it's that old thing. I guess Tim and I are kind of lucky in many ways that we have such experience in the auto industry, because that's one of those rare products that they have to be talking all the time. Even though there's
a brand effort, and there's an immediate effort, and there's an education effort.
Even though you and I might not be in market for a car today, the dialogue has to be happening, because when we are, we're going to hook into what we've heard. And there's a little bit of truth to that to most every business as well. It could be a small effort you make, and it could be a social media one. When you're not, for instance, having a sale or pushing something that the store is trying to do, or the small business.
But it's I guess the conclusion is it's important to optimize your investment and optimize your marketing investment.
It's worth spending time on it. In a very minimal, any effort you put in is going to pay off, but it's worth spending time on this.
Yep. And for Small Business Saturday, particularly, which today is November 26th, so it's important, again, as we said, if you have a small business in your neighborhood, you want to do some holiday shopping, be sure to support your small businesses and let them know maybe if you saw an advertisement or something they did as to why you came in. We've also, in the past, we've had people on from the Small Business Administration from the U.S. government. Check them out as well, because they're also a resource to help you put together marketing plans. They got money.
They got money.
They also are a resource to provide help in putting together marketing plans if you'd like some assistance. So hope everybody goes out and supports their small businesses today. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We want to thank Thomas Barta for joining us in his book, The 12 Powers of, 12 Powers of a Marketing Leader, for joining us today. And we want to thank our partner here in the Focus Group, Volkswagen of America. They've got a great sign and drive event going on right now. So if you're looking for a car, put VW on your list and head over to one of the VW dealers and check out the many new products that they have. They've got a new Atlas coming next year, which is a 7-passenger SUV.
With that rear seating thing, that pop-up thing, right?
And then you and I will be getting, hopefully, our All-Tracks soon, our VW All-Tracks. So everyone, get out there in the craziness. It's Cyber Monday soon. And get your holiday shopping done, and we'll see you next week.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM Satellite Radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.